All right. Well, welcome back to week two of the NFL season with podcast 46. I'm Andy P. With me is Jakey P, not Jakey V. Jake V is still in New Zealand. I believe he's coming home relatively soon. He did get to enjoy a wedding, and he texted me this morning, actually this afternoon, but he texted me and he told me that he was very happy he did not wake up at 5 a.m. for this Bears game. A sentiment that I think Jakey P and I could both get behind because we both regret being awake, even though the game was at noon. So, as I say that, Jake, how are you doing, my friend? How do you feel?
Well, I had a wonderful morning. I got up, my father made pancakes. I had a Bloody Mary, and I sat down to watch the Chicago Bears play football. And boy, oh boy, I don't know what I watched.
I think you need something a little bit stronger than a Bloody Mary to watch that, dude.
Well, and I had a Bloody Mary after that, and then after that, I was like, I couldn't swallow anything because my jaw was on the floor for the rest of the day.
Yeah, dude.
So,
That was that was rough.
yeah,
I had it on at work. Just on one of my screens, and every time I looked over, I was at risk of losing my job just because of how angry I was getting. There was the screen that I was using was, at risk of being broken when I was supposed to be using it for work.
yeah, you're just gonna punch the screen. I mean, there's a few.
Or
I'll tell
throw
you
it. I was
what.
gonna throw it.
I'll tell you what. There was a few moments where, I mean, I just wanted to throw my controller straight through my
hmm
TV. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we'll get to it, but I
hmm
mean, right at the end. Oh man, I think about 3 minutes left in the quarter, fourth
hmm
quarter. And Justin Fields. Actually, I should rephrase that. Luke Getsy decides to call the same play three times in a
hmm
row,
Yep.
and then the ball is intercepted. And pick six. I mean, I guess technically he was like 2 yards away from the field or from the goal line. So a nice little killer for the Bears. Was not fun. That was a moment that I was in my oh my gosh, what do you call those? Where you spread the legs out on a chair.
What?
The thing,
Like,
when you can lay out on a chair, like you pull
yeah.
the lever, and you kick your legs up.
Oh, yeah. Now I can't think of it. I don't know.
You know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
little
yeah.
lazy boy thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, dude.
And I just sat up, closed it, and walked away. I don't think I sat back down. There was still a few minutes left in the game, and I just wasn't ready for it.
That's
So that's how
awesome.
my day's going. My whole day
Yeah.
is ruined ever since.
Yeah, just so you know, that's a recliner that you were talking about. That's the
Ah,
word you were looking for.
recliner. That's the
Yeah,
right word.
I had to Google it, so don't feel bad. Sometimes words just escape you when you're trying to look for
Yeah.
it or talk about it on a podcast. Yeah, man, I was at work watching it, and yeah, dude, it was one of those things. I wish I could walk away from bad Bears football. And last season, there were a lot of moments where I really did walk away just because it was close to the end of the game, or it was such a blowout, or whatever the case may be. But the vibes last year kept me going a lot more and watching a lot more of the games that I probably would have watched if they were not as fun. There was just a different vibe with getting to watch Justin Fields explode every week, and
Well,
getting to see some of the coolest quarterback performances we've ever seen in a Bears uniform. But the vibe is just so different this year. It's just so lethargic and toxic already that I'll probably be getting up and changing. I mean, I turned on Red Zone because at the end because I just didn't care. I did, they just didn't. After that interception, I was like, this game's fucking over. Why should I even? I mean, obviously there's only 2 minutes left, but I was like, that this game's fucking over. That was such a mood killer. I was so excited to see Justin Fields lead a game-winning drive, and just all the hopes dashed.
hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I think the reason why the vibes are so different this year compared to last year is because, last year it was a battle between Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. Oh, who's gonna start this week? Who's gonna start next week? And Justin Fields was kind of just getting going.
hmm
Nobody thought that the Bears were going to go anywhere. Let's be honest. Did anybody last year think, oh my God, Bears are even going to make the playoffs? Maybe somebody out there. We all know that one guy, right? But no, I mean, I don't think anybody had gotten their hopes up last year as much as they were just saying it's okay. We've got next year or we've got the year after that. We're on the rebuild. Whereas I think maybe this year we maybe jumped the gun a bit too much. We
Hmm.
traded for DJ Moore, got our hopes up. We got Chase Claypool last season. We thought, oh my God, we finally have an attacking offense that can, throw the ball downfield. But the sad part is that that's not the case. And we all bought in. It's like you guys were saying last week with you and Nick from Listening with Levy.
Hmm.
I think it's we all got ourselves in a whole big pickle because we thought we were going to do well, and sure enough, we aren't, and we're crashing, we're nosediving, and
Hmm.
it's depressing because everyone hoped for a whole year that something was going to change, and it didn't.
Yes. So this is a good way to pivot into our more direct and specific thoughts about today's game. The Bears dropped today's game to the Buccaneers 27-17. They moved to 0-2 on the season. And yes, Jake, there's a part of me that is a little disappointed in myself for letting this team lie to me again because I'm 22. I've seen this team lie to me. I've been a fan since, the Bears went to the Super Bowl. So I guess they didn't lie to me that year, but basically since I was 7 years old when, they came back and we had expectations for them to repeat. And I believe they went 7-9, right, and missed the playoffs after the Super Bowl. So I had hopes this year, even though I know I shouldn't get my hopes up, right? I mean, there's been lots of seasons, right? 2019 was one of the most disappointing seasons ever where they went 8-8, missed the playoffs after the 12-4 season. 2018, our senior year of high school, right? One of the most fun seasons I've ever had as a Bears football fan, right? To see all the
Ruined by
moves
the double doink.
ruined, yes, which I still, even though I'm a Bears fan, I still enjoy watching just because I like to watch Matt Nagy's brain explode. This is a common thing. I mean, any moment where, the genius galaxy brain of Matt Nagy gets exploded because, of something stupid like that, it's enjoyable to go back and rewatch. But to think that the additions we made this offseason would amount to shit, to think that bolstering our linebacker core would alleviate the issues with our front line, to think that DJ Moore would just make, change our passing game, and upgrade it from a 1950s passing attack to a modern NFL passing attack, to think that our O line would be anywhere improved, to think that Justin Fields could either replicate last year or even get better, to think that could happen. I'm already feeling like a fucking dope for thinking that because I like all of these parts individually and I like the moves individually, but to think that I thought the Bears were going to make this all work, that is the part that I think I'm the most mad at myself for.
Well, I mean, that's the part is like, everyone bust out the clown makeup because I think everybody that I talk to, I mean, we're out here in the suburbs, right? But, anybody who's a fan of Chicago Bears football that you talk to this off season or, during the preseason, hey, I think maybe the Bears got something. I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe this is the year where maybe we show a little bit more heart. Maybe that we can try. We can show effort. I mean, again, DJ Moore, not the guy I think a lot of us, hoped he would turn out to be, but is that his fault? Is that Justin Fields' fault? Or is that Luke Getzey's fault? Is that Matt Eberflus's fault? Is that the wide receivers coach's fault? Is that the quarterback's coach's fault? The problem is that there's no one person to blame. And I think that's really disappointing because here's a perfect example. You were just talking about, oh, we've been lied to all these years about the Bears and stuff, and it's like, growing up, everyone pointed the finger at Jay Cutler. He was an easy person to point at, and nobody wanted, he was already kind of on the bad side of Chicago, I think, a little bit, and he was easy to blame. This time around, I think the people are behind Justin Fields. I think he, again, we were talking about this before we started recording. We're just kind of waiting for him to wake up, I think. It's and something else that needs to be said today about specifically about this game is he's hesitating way too much. And I think we'll end up talking about this more later, but I
Hmm.
think that many crucial moments in this game could have been changed drastically had he let go of the ball or just thrown it. It doesn't matter. You can throw it downfield, you can throw it out of bounds, anything where we're not giving up 10 yards for a sack.
Hmm.
And that was really disappointing. So
Yeah. So yes, let's get into the game itself and kind of some of the things that happen. So the game actually started off, I think you would agree, relatively positively. I know you would agree because we both texted each other some form of the Bears are back after the Bears went on, I believe, a 65-yard drive and that was capped off by a Justin Fields touchdown, which I don't know what happened, but they just really couldn't recapture outside of one drive. They really couldn't recapture that kind of energy and that level of play calling, that quality of play calling, and that quality of tempo as well. Jake, I don't know what happened, but I think you and I both again lied to ourselves again today.
it felt like one of those crazy, oh my God drives that would happen last season that sort of came out of nowhere and was just like, oh my God, this is Justin Fields making something out of nothing. I mean, they passed it. I want to say, was there two receptions that opening drive to DJ Moore?
Yeah, there were two catches. Yep,
Yeah.
there are two
So, I mean,
passes that went to him.
right. So, I mean, I was gonna say, when Tampa Bay came out of the gate swinging, and they ended with scoring a field goal, but I was a little worried. I really was worried. I was like, I don't know that the Bears are gonna be able to match this marching down the field, and I think this is something that we'll talk about that we saw the Buccaneers just march down the field, um, whether it's to kick a field goal or to score a touchdown.
Hmm.
Um, and I was really worried. I said, I don't if the Bucks keep up this tempo, I don't think that the Bears are going to be able to keep up. Sure enough, oh my God, the Chicago Bears answer back with an even better drive,
Hmm.
quicker, faster,
Hmm.
looked better. And I mean, I jumped up in the air. I mean, I was sitting down and I threw my hand up in the air and then I said, I think I texted you something like "Bears are back, baby." I mean,
Hmm.
with maybe a certain F word in there. And because I thought they looked good, and then little did I know that would be the highlight of the game.
Yeah, so man, the we're gonna go all over the place, I think, today, and I think that's okay because the Bears were all over the place because you couldn't even make the argument today that the offense wasn't moving the ball well enough that it wasn't tiring the defense out, right? Because the defense was tiring itself out. The defense could not get off the fucking field. There was some they flashed today, and this was I think late in the fourth quarter, so I don't know the exact stat, but they flashed a stat that said that the Buccaneers, who by the way their starting quarterback is Baker Mayfield, who threw for 317 yards. So he threw for Drew Brees style numbers, right? Tom Brady style numbers, quarterbacks that are better than him, right? He threw for those amount of yards. The Buccaneers were 7 for 12 on third down with an average of 7 yards to go. So they were consistently converting third and longs. You know, anything past 5 yards, right? It's obviously a harder down to convert because you can't normally just run it for a couple yards. And they were easy too. I think there were a couple third and 14s, third and 17s, ridiculous amounts of yards to go that the Bears were just giving up these first downs, right? And so you can't even blame the offense for not sticking on the field. I mean, you can for them not scoring points and throwing interceptions, but you can't blame them for tiring the defense out because the defense just wasn't doing enough to get off the field. I think they had maybe 17 pressures today, but they had no sacks. No sacks at all. So Baker Mayfield had, as long of a time to throw the ball in the pocket essentially as it takes to see paint dry, right? That old adage, right? So yes, the offense was bad, but the defense was not helping either.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know, and this is something that we're going to talk about on the offense too, but there weren't very many standout players.
Nope.
Maybe something would have changed had Jaquan Brisker and Eddie Jackson not gone out very early into the game.
Hmm.
And then their replacements quickly got scored on by
Yep.
Mr. Money Mike Evans,
Yep.
who, my God, I mean, I'll tell you what, Mike Evans killed us today.
Dude,
There
his
was
stat
no
line
stopping him.
was insane. He had 6 catches for 171 yards. So he had an open lane every time that he got the ball.
Every single time. And again, this is one of those moments where you can't put you this is a serious, like, he's a serious wide receiver. Honestly, after today, I would say what I feel like is maybe one of the better ones in the game, maybe that people don't have their eye on as much.
Hmm. Well,
And
yeah,
I
because
think Mike.
he's older now, so I feel like and he's also, he's on a team that doesn't have Tom Brady anymore, so the spotlight's not on him anymore, but he's still fucking good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and he ran up and down all over us, and we didn't have Eddie Jackson. We didn't have Jaquan Brisker. Sure enough, he's open I swear it felt like every single play. I'm looking at
Hmm.
the Bears defense. First off, I'm looking at the Bears defense again. Oh my God, they're still out here. And then quick, Mayfield to Evans, Mayfield to Evans. And it honestly would bring rage to me every single time I would see number 13 on the field.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that they only went to him. I don't know how many targets he had, but the fact that he only had 6 catches, but he still went for almost 200 yards. That's Tyreek Hill level, of impact on the passing game. Um, yeah, there's just I don't understand where Jalen Johnson was the whole game. I don't know. I don't remember seeing him do anything at all. I'm looking at the stats right now, and I don't even I don't even know. He recorded 3 tackles. So he's a corner, so he's not somebody that would do that. But he's supposed to be our star number one corner. He's supposed to be a lockdown corner, and you know, again, Mike Evans just went off, and then again, the Bears just couldn't get off the field. We just kept shooting ourselves in the foot, and I think you said that to me too, where the Bears couldn't get out of their fucking way, right?
Yeah, no, I did send you that text. I said, I mean, let's be honest, the Bears can't get
Yeah,
out of their own fucking way.
yeah.
And if they don't, I mean, you see what happens if they don't. This is the result. Here we
Hmm.
are sitting here, talking about, oh man, Bears are 0-2
Hmm.
and can't wait until next week when they do the same thing. I had a lot of hope going into this season, and
Hmm.
after last week, there was a part of me that said, you know what? I'm going to chalk it up to jitters. I'm
Yep.
going to say that maybe they just need one more to get going. It's Green Bay. The air is probably, it's getting to them. It's getting them nervous. And I will say I think that they played better this week,
Yeah.
but I don't know that it's hard to see that team and go, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's Sunday. I thought it was Saturday.
Hmm.
What college football team is this?"
Yeah. It's just this is just a thing that has really been a symptom of the Bears, or just a problem with the Bears for years now, is they always just feel underprepared. It always feels like they're a day or two behind the other team. It always feels like, even though they're on the same schedule for the most part, that the other team is just, I mean, this is Todd Bowles, right? That we're going up against. He's not a good coach. He's a good defensive mind, but he's not a good head coach. And now the Buccaneers are 2-0, right? Because they played the Bears. They got an easy schedule. They played the Bears, and we just looked so unprepared. We Here's one of my biggest problems, and just things that drive me nuts about this offense, because the defense, right? We talked about the defense a little bit. They sucked, whatever. I still feel like they have done enough in the first 2 games to keep the Bears in it, even though I don't think they're very good. The scores at halftime have been low. Today we were the I said we're on the team. It was 2017 going, you know, into the last 2, 3 minutes, right? So it was not we weren't being blown out. And last week, I don't think that the Bears started getting blown out really until, Field started throwing picks and we started
Yeah.
fumbling and everything like that, right? And that's when your offense is tiring out your defense, right? The defense is trying their best to get off the field, right? This week the defense was not helping itself out. But what I was saying is what drives me nuts about the Bears offense is just how we fucking force the ball to guys that we shouldn't be forcing the ball to, right? So we talked about how there wasn't a standout guy today. DJ Moore quietly had over 100 yards receiving for 6 catches. He did not stand out at all, I agree, but it's just that's crazy. But what's crazy to me is that we weren't consistently just passing him the ball on every play, or not every play, but every couple plays, giving, sending. I don't understand why we haven't ever, thrown him a screen pass. I don't think we've thrown a single one, or it feels like we haven't. I don't know if there was one today that I missed because I was, at work or whatever, but it just feels like we're not doing our best to get him mega involved in the offense like the Dolphins do with Tyreek Hill, right? Because the Dolphins' whole strategy is just to throw deep to Tyreek Hill every play. Why aren't we trying to throw to DJ Moore all the time, right? And case in point, there's a second or third down after the Bears' first touchdown when we had the ball again. I think it was the first possession after that touchdown where you put Velus Jones Jr. in the game, who's amounted to basically dirt shit, within the 2 years he's been in the NFL. And it's a symptom, and it's a thing that the Bears have always done. Where we did it with Tariq Cohen. You know, we done it with I don't know how many guys. Where Roy Williams, whatever. All these receivers we've had. You put them in the game, you fucking know the ball's going to that guy. And sure enough, the play went horizontal. It was a end around to Velus Jones that went for fucking nowhere, for nothing. And that is the Bears in a nutshell, Jake.
I will tell you right now, I saw them do the jet to Velus Jones Jr. and I went, what is this guy doing in the game? I mean,
He's a bum.
I have to say, after his performance last season, the fact that that guy is still employed uh under the Bears organization is crazy
Hmm.
to me. I would actually rather see who was the other wide receiver who would return punts and kicks?
Tyler Scott
Um, no, last season.
last season. I'm not sure about last season. Um,
Somebody's last name started with a P. I can't remember.
I'll look it up.
Um, I would rather have him than Velus Jones Jr.
Hmm.
Because I mean it's what there was that one time last season where they're like, we're gonna start trying to make Velus Jones a running back. And I don't know why. I mean, I guess they're trying to make something out of nothing. I think this is the problem with the Chicago Bears. Instead of just getting magic, they try to make magic with nothing.
Hmm.
They got like a box of crayons and like some glitter. And then they're like, now work. And it doesn't work. That's the problem. Why are they still doing this? They need to, in my 100% honest opinion, I understand that they're rebuilding this team,
Hmm.
but you're rebuilding it on uneven ground. I think I think you definitely need a new offensive coordinator.
Hmm.
I honestly think we could probably use a new defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest with you. If we got rid of Matt Eberflus and got a more experienced, dominant head coach, I think maybe the players' attitudes won't be as prevalent as they have been. Case in point, Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool had a terrible game last week. The city of Chicago, from the skyscrapers, was shouting, "Please God, bench Chase Claypool." And you know what? They stuck to their guns. They said, we're going to keep him in. I said, okay. He did well. He did well. And then he scored that touchdown, right? I was like, okay, you know what, Chase Claypool, you've redeemed yourself. And then there was that almost interception.
Yeah,
If I'm going to be 100% honest with you,
I think it
they
was.
could have gone either way.
Yeah. I
And
think his foot
we
got
got
in.
lucky.
We got really lucky with that. That
So,
was
and
that was really close.
I was gonna say, had that been an interception, I mean, you're off the hook, Claypool, but like, had that been an interception, I mean, That was rough. That would not have bode well for Chase Claypool fans out there.
Yeah, did you see that report? I think Jake Laser talked about this morning before the game started, where he's at risk to getting shipped out or something like that. I don't think I don't think a team is going to trade for him. I think we were the only ones that were going to trade for him.
I think the problem is that Pittsburgh traded to the Chicago Bears. Um, just any transaction of players. And apparently the Bears were like, yeah, because think about it. This was all before the DJ Moore trade with Carolina went down. And there were seriously people again. It's that Chicago Bears hype that we all try to buy into and act like there's something in the air. I can smell it. It's going to be
Hmm.
different this time around.
Yeah.
And, we traded for Chase Claypool and we're like, this is our franchise wide receiver right here, baby. And then he finally scores his first touchdown
Yeah, right.
today.
Oh my God.
So a little disappointing from Chase Claypool. Better game this week than last week, but I would say if he doesn't know that he's on thin ice,
Hmm.
he's gonna have to learn.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that the coaching staff is very happy with him either.
No, they're clearly not happy. I think he had to apologize to his teammates about his attitude, you know, because he clearly just did not give a fuck last week. He was trying to not block or whatever the case, dude. Which that's still an issue this week is guys are seemingly blocking when they shouldn't be and blocking not blocking when they should be. I don't understand. There's just across all levels, again, it just feels like these guys are unprepared and not ready to go every week. And I'm sick of it. I agree with you. I think I the DC I think was Alan Williams was not there today because he was dealing with a personal issue. So today was Eberflus calling the defense. And I mean, come on, man. The defense was basically, the equivalent of like a paper bag that was ripped in half. Like that's how big the holes were, right, in the defense. And I don't get why we didn't do anything with the defensive line. It sucks because we had such a dominant offensive line for so many years. Even under Nagy, we had Mack and we had Hicks and Eddie Goldman and a couple other guys, who were on the defensive line who could just really pressure the quarterback. I mean, this is not a hot take. Khalil Mack is one of the greatest defensive players of all time, but we just don't have anyone, who can do that. Yannick Ngakoue is a nice signing. I like having him, but he's flipped around and swapped around teams for a reason because he's not consistent and he's not, a three really like a three down player. He's really good at the pass defense, but the run defense is whatever, right? But he's just one guy, and he's not this over encompassing Aaron Donald like force, Khalil Mack like force. The OC, I don't know what happened from last season because I feel like the offense ran very smoothly last year, surprisingly. You know, they allowed Justin Fields to run and use his legs. Justin Fields had 3 yards rushing today. There were a couple times where he tried to start a run. The pocket was collapsing and he tried to run. He got sacked. But I don't besides the one well, I think the touchdown was, just he had a wide open gap. It wasn't a design run. So I don't really remember any design runs today, or at least design runs that were obvious because he would have gotten more than 3 yards rushing, right? I'm sick of the plays going horizontal. We talked about the Velus Jones play. I'm sick of the screen passes. I think we need to fucking end those. What drives me crazy is on the first drive that we had the touchdown on, that ended up with a Justin Fields run, right? The reason why we were doing so successful is the offense was moving quick and they were throwing for more than 10 yards on these passes, right? DJ Moore had a couple catches. We talked about it. DJ Moore had a couple catches for more than 10 yards. And that was the same thing on their second touchdown drive later on in the game where Justin Fields was throwing fast. He was not hesitating and he was I mean, everybody criticizes him for going to his first option, which I feel like has done a backwards, kind of it's made him go backwards. It's made him regress because now he is forcing himself to go to his other options every time. And I think that's why it's taking so long for him to get the ball out. And that's why he got sacked 5 times today. Right. And that's the other thing, too, is Justin Fields is just really, really good at taking a fucking sack and ruining plays. Like, I think we said that as well. So if the offense, it feels like the offense moves well when there's less time for Getsy to call play, where they're moving up tempo, and that's probably more. I mean, that's probably more Justin Fields calling plays and audibling and reading defenses like that, right? Justin Fields last week. I didn't talk about this on the episode because I didn't rewatch the clip, but on the touchdown that he had a Mooney, he called an audible on that play, right? So he's not dumb. People say he can't read defenses, but he's not dumb. I think they've just really, really coached some bad habits into him, and I think they've made him not confident in his ability to read a defense, right? Or I think the Bears are just ripped him apart and just completely shredded into pieces. And I blame a lot of that on Getsy because Getsy, I mean, he was hired by Eberflus, but Getsy is the OC and he was a quarterback's coach, right? So I blame that on him. Eberflus is obviously getting fired, whether this team is good or not. He's not going to be the Super Bowl. If this team ever went to a Super Bowl, he's not going to be that coach, right? He's very much Dale Swem, right? Who is the manager of the Cubs, or no, excuse me. Dale Swem was before Ricky Renteria, who was Ricky Renteria was the coach, the manager of the Cubs before Joe Madden, and Joe Madden was the World Series manager, which is funny because this also happened with the White Sox, where Ricky Renteria was hired and then fired because they thought they were getting a World Series manager in Tony La Russa, but that's a whole other fucking podcast. So, with that said, Jake, I've talked a lot. What do you have to say about anything that I said? I don't know. I talked forever. So,
You know, I mean, I want to talk about Justin Fields for a second.
yes.
I'm wearing you can't see it right now, but I'm still wearing my Justin Fields jersey.
Yep. Quick
So
question.
while
Quick question. Quick question.
yes,
Do you have a shirt on underneath that jersey, or are you just naked?
I got
Dude,
no shirt on underneath
that shit's
this.
so fucking weird. People, you have to fucking wear shirts underneath the jersey. I'm sorry, it's weird.
Well, I was just sitting in my house all day, chilling out. So I was like, it's fine. But I
Yeah.
was sitting next to my dad watching the football game with me.
Hmm.
And, during the whole game, we had different opinions on what was going on with the Bears offense. He wanted to say Justin Fields, which, again, like we were saying earlier, there's no one person to blame. You can choose Justin Fields and say, hey, uh, what are you doing when you are sitting back there for 10 seconds and just letting something happen, but then not throwing the ball? Then they go immediately after the play, they show, oh, there's DJ Moore wide open, there's Cole Kmet wide open. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
and Justin Fields is hesitating, and it's true. Justin Fields is hesitating, but I think there are other fingers to point at. I don't know that it's Justin Fields' fault. I think it's Luke Getsy's fault. And the problem with Luke Getsy's calls is that him and Justin Fields just not have chemistry together. I don't know if you have to change the playbook. Obviously, there are plays that need to be added and plays that need to be taken away. All right. It's like we said, we need to get rid of those screen passes and we need to add more run plays, designed run plays for Justin Fields. That being said, I just don't know that Luke Getsy and understands the type of player maybe that Justin Fields is. This has been my opinion lately. We're coming from an era with Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. These are pocket passers with a cannon for an arm. And if I'm going to be honest with you, the way that the game is played now, are there quarterbacks that are dominant like that? Of course there are. But if you're asking my honest opinion, it's become a double threat. It's about the arm. Can you throw? And can you run? Can you escape? Can you run for those extra yards? And I think Justin Fields is one of those new players who can do both. That being said, I don't know that Justin Fields has the most accurate throw out of all the NFL quarterbacks. I don't think anybody's going to debate that. I would say that he's a serious contender for, the best running or rushing quarterback in the league right now. I mean, maybe Lamar Jackson, but if you're going to build your offense around Justin Fields, it's obvious he's the franchise player right now. DJ Moore might be a better offensive player than Justin Fields, but you are building this team around Justin Fields as a player, and they aren't. You have to. Why aren't you doing that? Your quarterback is your core of your offense. And why aren't you playing to his strengths? And again, I don't know whose fault is that. Is that Eberflus's fault? Is that Luke Getzey's fault? Is it the McCaskies for having any of them still hired on the payroll? That's my question. What do
Is
you
it
think?
is it on the McCaskies for existing?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God.
Is
I
it
just
on?
wish that the spirit of George Hallis will come down from heaven and just take over Matt
Mhm.
Eberflus and just fire everyone and then maybe just stick around and maybe coach the season or two.
Yeah, maybe play
Um,
for him. Maybe play for
yeah,
the team.
seriously.
The
Do
ghost of George
something.
Ellis.
It's just
Yeah.
we need an Andy Reid. We need a Bill
Hmm.
Belichick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need a coach
Hmm.
who, first off, people know. Second, didn't come from what did Matt Nagy come from Canadian Football League?
Yes. Yep. Well,
So I came from
I think he played over there. Yeah, he was the OC of Andy Reid's Chiefs before Patrick Mahomes. But
okay.
yeah, he played from Mark Trestman came from the Canadian Football League.
That's who I was thinking of,
Yeah.
Mark Trestman. So still add Mark Trestman, then you got Matt Nagy, and then you've got um Eberflus, who, you know, you could say all day, oh, Matt Eberflus was the defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. Oh, really? Where did all that go? Because I don't know what's going on. I'm going to be honest with you. When they said that the Bears defensive coordinator, I can't recall his name right now, but you know, was out for a personal issue, and they said not Matt Nagy, Matt Eberflus is going to be calling the defense today. I said, you know what? Okay, let's see what can happen here. Nothing. It was a big old nothing burger. And every single time that the offense got out there, I felt like I was biting air. And I really wish I was biting a burger, but I wasn't. And I think Justin Fields is the patty
Hmm.
and the coaching staff are the buns. And you know what they did? They just took one bun and threw it to the left and one bun and threw it to the right and then said, "What's going on, man? Where are my buns?"
I'm not sure that hit, but I appreciate the effort.
I don't really know what
Uh,
that was supposed to mean, but it was just it made sense in my own head.
yeah, I
You're
get what you're
trying to
kind of
make a
saying.
sandwich.
They kind of just left him out to dry, I guess is what you're saying.
It wasn't complete.
Yeah.
There was no, you know, there wasn't you're putting pieces together that are just not making a whole and just are not gelling. It's like if
Yeah.
you try to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with like salami.
Mm. Yeah. See,
What are we doing?
here's a saying if we're going off of old phrases and, adages that we want to talk about. To me, the offense kind of, and this happened with Mitch too, and this happened, with Cutler, especially with Mike Martz, right? This just happened throughout the Bears' history, and it's happening with Fields again, where it feels like the Bears, if it feels like, excuse me, I think I said it feels like the Bears will draft a player, and they have this very specific idea of what they want the offense to be like, but what they do is they draft a player that doesn't fit that offense you know, instead of building that offense around the player, they try to just force that player into what they want them to be. And there's some, there's a part of development that, you want to mold the player into the best player they can be, but you can't turn Justin Fields into Aaron Rodgers. You can make Justin Fields the best Justin Fields. But what the Bears are trying to do, and here's where the phrase is coming in, the Bears are trying to put a square peg in a round hole with Justin Fields.
It's a really good way to look
They
at it.
Yeah, and they did this with Mitch too, because Mitch was also a mobile quarterback who in 2018, at one point in the season, he was leading quarterbacks in rushing. And then I think he got hurt, but they stopped rushing with him after he came back healthy. And Justin Fields ran for 1,000 yards last year, and now they don't run with him anymore. Right. So
Why?
they're forcing him to be a pocket passer instead of using his legs and using his fucking cannon for an arm to go deep. Here's the thing, too. It's you could ask the question, do they not trust Justin Fields? Well, sure, you don't trust Justin Fields. Justin Fields very much struggles with yards within 10 or throws within 10 yards. For whatever reason, those are really rough for him to hit. But he was one of the best deep passers per capita, per volume, per the amount that he was throwing last year. He was one of the best deep passers last year. And I don't think I've seen a single fucking pass over 30 yards, right? I haven't seen a fucking four vert. Just run a four vert. It's a man play, but the fucking Dolphins run it with Tyreek Hill and Jane Waddle. Fucking try it. Just try
I
something.
think
Change it
I
up.
think
And
I
to answer your
right,
question,
right.
this is on both Getsy and Eberflus because they both have this dumbass fucking notion that you can't risk anything. You can't risk it for the biscuit, right? That's their whole fucking thing. The whole fucking hits principle, they're so turnover afraid. They're fucking little cowards, right? So it's on both of them to answer your question, as you were saying.
I think that something that I think maybe we will see later on in this season is that um, I think maybe the Bears will just finally realize that DJ Moore is just kind of one of those receivers that is just going to be open. You
Mm-hmm.
just kind of have to throw it to him.
Yeah.
And
Use
they
him in the
aren't.
screen pass game. I was saying that earlier. Just you're forcing these screen passes to these guys where it's obvious it's going to them. Throw it to DJ Moore, get him involved. He's a yak king, as you were saying. I'm sorry.
Did Darnell Mooney get a touch today?
I think he left the game with an injury at one point, but
Gotcha, gotcha.
before he left, he was not, anywhere to be seen.
Chase Claypool maybe had a couple. Um, that's about it. Cole Kmet had a couple. No, again, nobody really stood out. DJ Moore, technically the standout player of the offense. Um, here's somebody we haven't talked about at all because he's so out of the picture. Khalil Herbert did nothing today. And I'm going to be honest with you. I thought last season, watching David Montgomery and watching Khalil Herbert, I thought Khalil Herbert fought a little harder for it. And I think David Montgomery is a good running back.
Hmm.
That being said, I thought maybe, you know what, if we do get rid of David Montgomery this next year and we decide to start, Khalil Herbert, I think there's a good chance that we'll have maybe an even better run game. And last week we saw Roshan Johnson, and I thought there's a chance here with this running game. Now we have good receivers and we have a good a good pair of running backs. Nothing. Again, nothing. We saw something going on with Roshan Johnson last week. He had a couple good runs this week. Not really anything of note. Khalil Herbert, really nothing of note.
Hmm. This reminds me a lot of Jeremy Langford. Do you remember him from about 2014, 13?
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
I don't
so
know.
he was the running back that was supposed to replace Matt Forte when Matt Forte left
Oh,
or
that's
was
right.
getting older, and he had a nice couple games to end the season, and so I think they went with Jeremy Langford over Matt Forte, who then went over to the Jets. Actually, coincidentally, he went over to the Jets, and then Jeremy Langford wasn't anything, and then we got Jordan Howard. And that kind of feels what's happening with Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson, where people thought Khalil Herbert was going to be, the next guy at running back after Montgomery left. And I am more convinced that Roshan Johnson is the guy. And I wish we would give him more touches because he just has a different electric feeling to him, when he touches the ball. So I don't know. I have talked about this with the other Jake from this podcast, but
Right.
I'm getting over Khalil Herbert real fast.
Yeah, I really liked him last season and I had
Hmm.
high hopes, but I have to agree with you. He hasn't really done anything of note at all. And we have Roshan Johnson doing so well. And again, maybe and I say this all the time about pretty much, anything. Expectations can kill you. I
Hmm.
think everybody expected Khalil Herbert to step up and he hasn't. And now we're seeing that same position here with Roshan Johnson, where we say, "Oh, I hope that he could be Khalil Herbert last season," in the sense where we see him as this new running back who could maybe turn things around for us. And I think there is a chance for that. But if we're going to be following the repetitive nature of the Bears offense, it's going to be nothing. And the Bears are going to suck for another 10 years
Hmm.
until maybe we have a season like 2019. But we still don't make it. Um, I think we have a better offense than we did last season. we aren't running the ball nearly as much as we did last season, especially these early few weeks,
Yeah.
because that's all we had. We weren't throwing the ball, we were only rushing. And that's okay. If it works,
Hmm.
maybe. This season, I don't really see the Bears really implementing any sort of rushing offense into anything. It's really odd how quickly they decided, no, we're gonna switch that, and we're only gonna throw short passes and
Hmm.
screens and check down passes, and you can get that by just rushing the football
Hmm.
or somewhat similar. If
Yeah.
you want to get those small chip yards, use all parts of your field. You don't have to pass the ball every play. You don't have to run the ball every play. Maybe first down, run a rush. Maybe second down, throw a quick pass. Third down, are you there? Maybe you've gotten a first down by this point. But I think the Bears see this squeaky clean new piece of their offense and they're like, we want to show it off. And then the luster dies quick and they can't recover. And so I'd like to see more rushing. I'd like to see Justin Fields rush. I'd like to see Roshan Johnson rush, and I'd like to see Khalil Herbert actually live up to the hype, maybe.
Yeah. I just variety to your offense and using your players in the best possible positions is just so huge. But I want to wrap things up on this Bears talk with this Bears game. We talked about the last 3 minutes and how humiliating that was. And I just kind of to wrap things up, I want to ask this question because the Bears are now owned 2 after that pick six, and a couple just man, agonizing last couple plays. The Bears fell to 0-2. So there's already talk of the Bears moving on from Justin Fields and drafting Caleb Williams from USC. Jake, I'm going to ask you what you think about that in a second. For me, personally, if that happens, if we draft Caleb Williams, I can't get excited for it. I just can't do that anymore. There's just so much evidence that the Bears don't know what they're doing that you could give me prime Andrew Luck. You could Andrew Luck could be sitting on a platter, right? That good of a prospect, NFL, sure, right? There's no chance this guy doesn't miss. We would have messed him up. We would have messed up Patrick Mahomes years ago. We messed up Mitch, right? And Mitch was never this huge prospect, right? I mean, he was obviously the second overall pick, but nobody thought he was gonna be the surefire thing, but he was definitely more coveted coming out of college than he ended up he didn't look like that in the pros. Justin Fields is the most talented quarterback we've ever had in the history of this team. You look back at the whole entire history. I love Jay Cutler. He was one of my favorite Bears of all time, but he doesn't have the talent that Justin Fields does. Justin Fields runs like a running back and throws, has one of the strongest arms in the league. And he's 6'3", he's 240. He's mega talented. But we're ruining him, you know? And so, I everybody loves to move on from the quarterback immediately. There's a guy I was listening to ESPN 1000 on the way home today. There's a guy already calling for Tyson Badgett, to come and start. Tyson Badgett is a nice player. I'm sure he'd be a nice backup, but he's a backup. We want to see the talent that Justin has. We want to see him develop, but we haven't seen Justin develop, right? So there's that issue, and I get wanting to move on, and I get the allure of a new quarterback in Caleb Williams because Caleb Williams looks awesome. But with all that said, there's just no way we don't ruin him. So Jake, what do you think of the possibility of just sucking for Caleb Williams? I don't think this team is bad enough to do that, but it is a possibility, especially because we have the Panthers pick too.
This is a debate that I feel like any other team that has a solid offensive base would just look at face value and say, well, what's Caleb Williams going to bring to the team compared to our starting quarterback? Whereas us, the Chicago Bears, have to dig a little deeper into it and say, oh man, I sure hope we don't ruin him like we did our last three quarterbacks. And in my personal opinion, definitively will say I think I would rather take Justin Fields. I think if we did take Caleb Williams and decided to start over, bring out the construction crew, Bob the Builder over here, just wreck everything and start over again. It's like, what have we been
Wreck-It
doing for the
Ralph.
last few seasons? Wreck-It Ralph, yeah. Um, and I mean Matt Eberflus kind of looks like Wreck-It Ralph with the big gap between his teeth. Anyway, but it's I think we if they're not going to develop Justin Fields into the player that he is instead of the player that they want him to be, then we need to just draft Caleb Williams. But if that's what they want to do, it's what they're going to do. They don't care. They honestly, they see dollar signs, which is funny because the Bears continue to lose. So how is the Bears as an organization still making money?
They're
But
still somehow the hottest ticket in town. I mean, it's just the lack of games, really. You only get 8, 9 games at home a year, So
mhm,
it's just a different thing. It's a TV show, right? It's a
yeah.
TV show. So
So, Justin Fields they need to develop Justin Fields, which is what they led us to believe they were doing in the offseason. And clearly they were just trying to turn water into wine, which is not what Justin Fields is. They need to just keep sipping on the water.
yeah. No, he's the grapes, but you need to just leave him alone, or
Yeah.
you need to let those grapes grow until it can become wine instead of just using that grape prematurely, right? It's like when you get an avocado that isn't ripe and you can't cut it. You can't get the ball out of it. You can't make guacamole, right? We're going for even more turns of phrases that I've never heard of. But you got that's something that I think we need to see how this year goes. We need to see him develop.
Let him
He
cook. Let him
he
cook.
let him cook. No, that's the thing. He had 2 nice drives where he looked like an NFL level quarterback, and then the rest of the time the offense was just sputtering. So I don't want to see Tyson Badgett. I don't want to see. I don't care. Like he's not going to do anything. I get that he was an NCAA leader all time in passing touchdowns, I believe, or something like that. But I think he was D2. Um, Justin Fields
Ooh,
has way more
that says
talent.
enough.
Yeah,
That says enough.
Justin Fields just has way more talent, and so I want to see him develop this year, and I want him so badly because I still remember the fun and the excitement I had when we drafted him, and I still remember there's still a lot of moments last year that are keeping me going. But I just the allure of getting a new quarterback for the Bears, whenever it lessens every time, and the idea of getting Caleb Williams just doesn't do anything for me. He great quarterback. He's going to be awesome for every other team in the league except for the Bears. I just can't. We're just going to ruin him. I don't care. I want the team to be good, and I want Justin Fields to be good because I can't stomach another fucking quarterback that we ruin. So with that all said, I think that's enough Bears talk, or at least this game specific talk. We've got almost an hour on this one game, so I think we're good to move on. So again, the Bears drop to 0-2. They lost 27-17. I want to throw a couple stats in here, just because we're all stat heads and we all like to hear that kind of stuff. So Fields went 16 of 29 for 211 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, another pick six this week. So he has 2 pick sixes in 2 games, which is awesome. Baker Mayfield threw for 317 yards. Mike Evans caught 6 catches for 171 yards. And then just to look at our defense, Edmonds had 16 tackles and Edwards had 13. And that's really it. That's all I really want to care to talk about. So that was the 12th consecutive loss. That's the last stat that I'll share. That is the Bears' 12th consecutive loss going back to last season. So it has been a long time since we won. And I know last season was all about losing. It became very clear after they traded away our entire defense that they were going for a high draft pick because they were at one point, I believe, 3-2, 3-2, 3-3, somewhere around that. And then they didn't. Their last win was actually the Patriots are on Sunday Night Football tonight. Their last win was against the Patriots, which that was the best game I think Justin Fields has played. That was the most consistent he was. There were plays that made sense. He was rolling out, he was finding guys, he was getting rid of the ball quick, and just to see it all kind of tumble down so quickly, and just the toxic feeling that we already are undergoing this season has just
Right.
really been disappointing. So, with that said, I think we're going to move into our next segment for the show, where we pick our week 3 NFL picks. But this is just kind of an off the cuff question. I know, this was a thing that you like to do. Jake and I went to college. So, if people listening out there, if you haven't put it, put it together. Everybody that I've had on the show so far, I've gone to college with and I've worked with in some capacity.
Yeah.
It seems like at least the guests wise, Nick last week we worked at the radio station together. Me and Jake worked at the TV station and the radio station together, and Jake was always really known for kind of asking these kind of off the cuff fun questions, people. And I know you talked about it, I think on the station about how you kind of try and, make people feel at ease and feel relaxed with your fun questions. And so I think just to come down, because I feel like you and I have been yelling like like crazy people, for 45 minutes, close to an hour, 55 minutes, however long it's been. So my question is, Jake, what is the best food? Either it can be a snack, it can be a whole meal, whatever, to go with football, to eat with football.
Oh man, that is a really, really good question.
Hmm.
The first thing that my mind, I'm not gonna pick this, but the first thing that my mind jumps to, I feel like a constant at the snack table if I'm ever like, with my family and we're making snacks for football is like the buffalo chicken dip.
Mm.
Now that is, I don't know if that's just a football thing. I don't know if that's a Chicago thing. Um, but it is incredible and I can never stop eating it.
Hmm.
Pizza bagels, that's another one. Anyone busts out the pizza bagels, I mean, we're on a different experience. Um, but I'm gonna choose another pizza related item, and I'm gonna go with pizza rolls.
Okay, nice.
What do you think?
So first of all, I'm gonna say hot take right now. And this is somebody who my first love is baseball. The snacks that you bring out at a football party, way better than baseball, because baseball is so just, oh, it's hot dog, it's chips, it's
Yeah.
burgers, right? There's so much variance with football snacks. So for snack wise, I'm gonna go with the tried and true chips and guac, right?
Okay.
You can't go wrong with
Good
that.
choice.
You
Good
can't go
choice.
wrong with that. Maybe a nice beer, maybe a nice Modelo. They just had a Modelo ad on this commercial, or on this commercial break, and I'm already kind of thinking about getting a Modelo. It is 8:12 at night, and I haven't had a sip today, so I'm thinking about opening up a Modelo right now.
But
But
come on,
this,
Miller Lite, official beer of the Bears.
yeah, you know what, dude? I heard a Miller Lite ad today on the radio, and I had to turn it off when it goes, "Hey, you're one of the lucky ones. You were born a Bears fan." I believe it was a Miller Lite fan or a
Oh,
Miller Lite ad, and I literally go, "Yeah, no, I wasn't." And I turned it off. I was not born lucky. This is a fucking curse. But for meal wise, if you're going for something a little bit more, and this can, count as a snack, appetizer, whatever too. If you're going for something a little bit more filling, chicken wings is
oh yeah.
it's nothing beats. There's something so awesome about watching a football game and eating chicken wings and just having a bunch of chicken wings with your football game.
I will say the chicken wings. I mean, I'll tell you what, I don't know if you've ever tried this before, but so there's a chain in around the Chicagoland area of grocery stores called Jewel Osco,
Yes.
and they have this bucket of wings,
Mm,
and you can get them. That would be if me or my family ever would go to a football party,
yeah.
somebody would bring these Jewel Osco wings, and they're so good you can't stop eating them. Um, Actually, I'm gonna be honest. One of my favorite football foods, it might be a little early in if it's not fall yet, but we're almost there. We had chili today.
Mm,
Chili, a good fall Sunday like sports, food. I mean, if we're gonna be on the nose about it and say like what if you could choose like any Chicago like themed or like any, I guess, food before a football game, and I think that might just become by Chicago since we're Bears fans. I mean, an Italian beef, man.
Italian
I'll
beef
tell
is
you what,
perfect.
it's so good. I mean, you can roll up just about anywhere. I mean, can an Italian beef really
me and
be
the
bad?
me and the crew rolling up with our beefs.
Yeah,
you
seriously.
know.
And the best beef where I am at that's in a close enough proximity, the bone of beef is too far away from me.
Hmm.
But I mean, Portillo's has a pretty solid beef. I'm not gonna act like it's, some amazing, incredible Chicago beef, but like the Portillo's beef is good, it's consistent, and you really can't go wrong.
Yeah, I do. I'm lucky enough where I live by. I live by Portillo's, and I also live by a beef shack. Like
Ooh,
they're all within a very close driving distance. And then I also work near Mr. Beef, where if anybody doesn't know what that is, that's essentially where like the restaurant that the bear is based off of. So I had that a week or two ago, and that was better than crack. That was the
okay,
best beef
really?
I've ever had. It was so good. It was like $12. It was the most expensive Italian beef I've ever had, but it was so good. All right. I'm getting hungry, so I think we're gonna switch gears here and get into our final segment of the show. Let's get into our week 3 NFL picks. So basically, the way that this works, I just give you a matchup. You tell me who's going to win,
Right, right.
and then we talk about it for a little bit. We're not doing spreads or anything. We're not being degenerate gamblers like our friend Dane, who I mentioned last week, and I'm going to mention again just because I want to know how far he gets into this episode. Because we mentioned him pretty late last week, I think, and
Right,
I was
right.
surprised about it. So I just want to see if he's made it this
Yeah.
far again, because I think that's funny. But all right, so Jake, so the first game, again, I told you this before the show, or maybe I told you even in the show, but the week 3 NFL slate is not very promising. There's not really a lot of watchable games on there. It's watchable
Yeah.
because it's football, but there's no matchup that I'm absolutely dying to watch. There's no I don't even, I was really looking forward to Ravens Bengals today, right? So there's no game like that. But the first one I'll give you to pick, who do you think is going to win, is Saints versus Packers, which I believe is at Lambeau.
I'm gonna be honest, I think the Packers.
Hmm.
I think the Packers are gonna win this. I Jordan Love is not a bad quarterback. I think maybe people thought because he was in Aaron Rodgers' shadow that he just was never going to be, and you can't fill those shoes.
Hmm.
But I think Jordan Love is a good quarterback. I don't know that the Saints, I mean, the Saints did well last season, right? Or was that the year before?
I I can't remember. Well, because Drew Brees retired, I think, in 21, and so the
Yeah.
last 2 years they're still really talented the last 2 years, but because they have not really had a quarterback, they have not done that well.
They
Last year, I
have
believe
that
they
piece
were
plucked.
7-9 or 7-10.
Yeah.
Now they have
Yeah,
Derek Carr.
yes, they have that piece plucked that I think maybe, I mean, the new Green Bay team is kind of fresh as well. And I think they've been working together enough to the point where I think they have enough synergy, whereas the Saints had Drew Brees plucked from there, and then
Hmm.
ever since then it's just been like something's missing, uh, and it's Drew Brees.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pick the Packers.
I I feel like I've gone chalk with my picks the last 2 weeks, and I've been wrong. Relative. I got to look at my. I've yet to add up, how I've done, just because the other Jake has not been here the last 2 weeks, so I have to
Yeah.
come back and update my, how I've done with these picks next week. But I definitely know I'm under 500 because, and a lot of times I'm picking the not the underdog, the favorite. So I don't know who's favored in this. I assume the Packers would be because they're at home. So I'm gonna go with the Saints with this one,
Okay.
just because I don't really want to pick the Packers to win anything. And then second of all, I do think the Saints are really, really talented, and I think Derek Carr might be the piece that they need just to have a competent, above average quarterback, to move that offense along, get the offense going. Their defense is awesome. They have so much talent. I think Alvin Kamara will not be back. This will be the last game without Alvin Kamara, but they still have a lot of guys. Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, if he ever gets, that screw back into his head. Just a lot of really good guys, on the offensive side. And I'm going to go with the Saints. This one is probably the best one of the week, the Saints versus Packers game, at least from the slate from my first looking at it. All right, second game, Falcons Lions.
Oh, um, Falcons win today?
Yep.
Yeah, I think I got to go Falcons. Although I have to say the Lions are doing surprisingly well this season. Um, I
They
mean,
lost today in a brutal fashion, though, dude.
yeah, but
They came back from
better
a 10
than
point deficit and then lost in overtime on a touchdown.
yes. Yes, against the Seahawks. And
Yep.
and I don't, again, Lions are a good team. Um, that being said, that's another team that's just like, I don't know. I think the Falcons are going to take it. I think
Hmm.
Bijan is too good. Um, I have Tyler Algier on fantasy, so why wouldn't I want to hope? Um, and so yeah, I think I'm going to go Falcons on this one.
I'm gonna go Falcons too. I think I, I just think it's funny that they have Kyle Pitts and Drake London, and they have Bijan Robinson, who I think they traded up for, or at least they used their first round pick, obviously, on this guy. And Arthur Smith is like, yeah, fuck it, we're gonna use Tyler Algier or whatever, and just have this offense that doesn't really make any sense. It still works, but it doesn't. It's not a conventional modern offense. They don't use any of their playmakers. Kyle Pitts will never be a thing. That's something that I don't know who has him in our fantasy football league. But do you have him? Dude, he's
I
never gonna be
do.
a fucking thing. He's just never gonna be a fucking thing. There's every year since he's been drafted, the conversation has always been, why doesn't he get more touchdowns? I don't know, maybe because he fucking sucks,
Yeah.
or also too, Arthur Smith definitely just hates him and doesn't want to use him, because he did have 1,000-yard receiving season his first year. So I just don't think he's ever going to be a thing. Good luck with that. I'm going to go with the Falcons too, though, because I think the Falcons are pretty good, and I think the Lions. I just don't think they're going to. I don't know. It's hard for me to see them lose two in a row, but it's also hard for me to see them bounce back after today, especially because to go from the high of beating the Chiefs the first game to now losing to the fucking Seahawks, it's just that's a tough turnaround. Um, okay. Whole the next one I have is Colts versus Ravens.
I think the Ravens.
Yeah.
Is there even that much of a debate?
No, I just thought it was an interesting game.
Yeah.
Um, you know, eh, Anthony Richardson, if he isn't out with a concussion, is really, really fun to watch. He had two rushing touchdowns today. He had one last week. I think he's the first, or at least, one of the rare players as a rookie to ever have three rushing touchdowns in his first two games.
Mhm.
So I do think the Ravens are the better team, but I think the Colts are very fun to watch. I am going to go with the Ravens, though. However,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree.
Lamar
I just
Jackson just makes it work.
Yeah, I was again looking at the slate. The games are just so disappointing. There's so many teams and matchups that just aren't very, exciting for me,
Mhm.
or to me. Um, which, with that said, I was going to go with Rams Bengals, but the Bengals have kind of been disappointing this year. So I do think this might actually be a more fun game, especially after watching today's collapse. Broncos Dolphins.
Ooh, so I'm looking up right now. Dolphins are 10 zip on New England.
Hmm.
Um, I'm sorry, you said Dolphins who?
Broncos.
Bronco. Okay, well, I'm gonna go Dolphins on that. They have Tyreek Hill, and that's all you need to know. I think Tua is actually playing fairly well after he, was I mean, horrifically mauled last season. I'm not gonna lie, I think we were sitting in, it was a Monday night, I want to say, and we were sitting inside of, our WZND News and Sports meeting,
Hmm.
and Tua just got absolutely rocked. And I mean, they had to cart him off. He like
Hmm.
couldn't feel his fingers. His
Yeah.
fingers were all bent. I was like,
Yeah.
I think there were people in there that actually thought, I don't think Tua is ever going to play again.
Hmm.
Um, and sure enough, they tried to start him next week, uh,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yep.
But I think Tua is impressing this season, and I think Tyreek Hill is a monster.
Hmm.
So that's why I think I'm going to take the Dolphins.
I'm gonna go with the Dolphins too. This is one of the most obvious caveats. It all depends on Tua's health. But when Tua's healthy, he balls out.
Yeah.
And they look really good so far to start the season. Their offense looks awesome. I really like Mike McDaniel as a coach. Their defense is pretty good. They haven't really given up a lot of, or well, they give up a lot of points to the Chargers, but they at least, kept them in the game. So I'm high on the Dolphins. I'm gonna go with the Dolphins, even though I said I was gonna try and start picking, different picks.
Right. Right.
That we're all going chalk. But fuck it. What do you have to lose? Nobody's listening. Last game of the week because we have to fucking set ourselves up for torture. Bears Chiefs.
Ah, man. This is the sad part because the whole day while I was sitting there watching, I said, "Great, we have the Chiefs to look forward to next week."
Hmm.
Um, you know, Travis Kelsey's back. I don't think we're gonna have some miraculous W like the Lions did week one. Uh, the Chiefs are gonna dominate the Bears, and that's just how it's gonna go.
I think you're right, but I'm gonna go with the Bears.
You know what?
I
Just
think
just because,
I
put me
think
on for the Bears.
I got I if somebody I've decided on this podcast that if my co-host, whoever my co-host is, right? I mean, the other Jake is my main co-host, right? But if
Right,
he's
right.
on here, whoever is on here with me, if one of us doesn't go with the Bears, I'm gonna be Mike Ditka on the ESPN Monday Night Football countdown where everybody picked the Packers and he's the only person who picked the Bears. I'm gonna do that. The Chiefs are better in every facet of the game, but they are prone to getting cute, and they have Matt Nagy on the sideline, and because I think this definitely is our first game because we didn't play them last year. It's our first game that we're going up against Matt Nagy after the Bears fired him. So that he's going to be trying to fuck the Bears over, you know. But here's the thing, Matt Nagy's a fucking moron. So whatever he tries won't work, and that's what they should be concerned with. Is Matt Nagy's a fucking moron, and now he's the offensive coordinator, so he could tank their season because he gets in his own fucking way, and he shoots himself in the foot constantly. You know, he took the ball out of the hands of Patrick Mahomes so many times the first game. I saw that they won today, and Patrick Mahomes scored a lot of points for me in fantasy. So I don't know what way that Matt Nagy decided to be a fucking moron today, but he is an idiot. He's gonna want to do whatever he can to blow out the Bears, and I really hope that he somehow shoots himself in the foot again, and that we finally start to win due to Matt Nagy once again. So I'm gonna go with the Bears. I do think that the Chiefs are a better team, and they probably will win. But just to be a homer, I will go with the Bears. It's just despite the entire hour and a half or however long hour 10 minutes we've been talking and all my feelings towards them. So that's our picks for week 3. Jake, how is your fantasy team doing? We've talked about it here and there. I think just to end the show, we should
So,
end on a fun little conversation.
right. Um, so my fantasy team in the league that we're playing in right now,
Hmm.
I think I drafted well. And I'm gonna win today. So, and I lost last week. I'm gonna win this week, so that's okay. 1-1, right? We'll just call it a wash. Now, somebody that I drafted first in both leagues that I'm in, Jamar Chase. What is going on with the Bengals? Like, I don't know, they're falling apart or something, but the Burrow Jamar Chase connection just is not there like it was last season, and it's starting to worry me. But other than that, in my other league, I am gonna be 0-2. So, and for the record, I thought, my team, I got second place in our league last year, and I was astonished. I thought I had a horrible team, and it did not work out well for me. But it did, because then I was somehow in the Super Bowl. Made my money back. Can't complain.
You made twice the
This time
money.
around, oh, really?
Yeah, when you got into second place in our league last year. Yeah.
Oh, I thought I only got my.
No, you paid. Remember? Okay, now we're gonna get into
Oh,
the
that's
logistics.
right. I
You
see
paid
what you're saying.
$10. I gave you 20 back,
That's
so
right.
you made twice the
Yes.
amount. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. Well, anyways, um, I
Come
just
on.
this season, I thought to myself, I'm like, man, I did well last season. There's no way I'm gonna lose this time around.
Hmm.
And it's not working well for me.
Yeah, dude. It's just luck. I went off
Yeah.
the guy I went up against today. I think has I just looked, and this is my work league, not our friend league. He had Keenan Allen and Mike Evans, who both I think scored 30 points. So I am losing. I'm not losing as bad as I should be. I'm losing by about 40 or 50 points right now, which I should be probably down by a lot more. But I had a couple guys go off, which is really cool. But then I had other guys who just really stunk the fucking, you know, stunk the fucking place up. I'm gonna go 2-0. I'm gonna go 2-0 in our friend work, radio station league, whatever. Um, First year that I've had Patrick Mahomes, so I was really excited about that because I was like, I don't have to worry about him. I had Herbert last year. I drafted Herbert again in my work league this year because it is a toxic relationship that I can't get out of. Of course, I benched him today. I started Tua. Tua is not having a bad game by any means, but Justin Herbert had 22 points and Tua's on pace for 13. So I did not help my case there. But in the league that you and I are in, Mahomes had 55. So
Yes,
again, I fucked with the scoring. I don't know if you noticed, but
I did. I did.
the scoring in our league is
It's
fucking
like jacked
ridiculous.
up.
I love it. No, I'm just so I hate the league that we were in last year. Somebody else set it up for us, and lovely guy. Don't get me wrong, but there were just a couple things that I was like, I wish that we could just have like crazy scores because there were so many games that were like 120 to 90, and that's just fucking boring, you know? And what's really cool too is I made it, or I don't know, it's gonna sound like I pat myself in the back, but what I really like about our league is that we have two flexes, which I set up, but it's because somebody told me to do that. And honestly, that makes it a lot more fun to have two flexes.
It does.
And it just makes it a lot more satisfying, I feel like, just because, it adds, you know, you think it would make it easier to make those picks and who's going to be in your flex, but it actually makes it harder because we're also in an 8 team league. So we have a lot more talent on our teams. So it's fun to be able to use more of our talent, but it's also, there's a little bit more guessing and a little bit more thought that has to be put into who you're starting, on the flex side of things. So that's been really fun. Fantasy football is fun. It's really stressful and it's dumb and it kind of ruins your life, but it's also nice to be playing the meta game, and it keeps you really invested. I played fantasy baseball. I can't give a fuck about fantasy baseball, but fantasy football is so easy that I really don't mind it. And it's fun to see my guys go off. And you feel like a genius when you have a guy who scores 20 or more points, and you feel like a dumbass when you leave somebody on the bench, who does that. So it keeps you grounded.
And it keeps you invested. I mean, I think it's I really mainly the only team that I actually dedicatedly watch is the Chicago Bears.
Hmm.
But I as a result of playing stuff like fantasy football and honestly even like to a degree like Madden to a
Hmm.
degree keeps you kind of in the zeitgeist, I suppose, of understanding who's who in the zoo and who should you play for the day. That
Hmm.
was great.
There you
Um,
go. That's your
but
first phrase that made sense.
yeah, it's very fun in the sense where, and especially beforehand when you're doing your research on who you want to pick and who you decide who's going to be my explosive secret player, who's going to pop off this season that no one's going to expect. And plus it's just you're messing around with your friends.
Yeah.
Really can't get more fun than that.
Yeah, it was nice. I have a friend who I haven't seen for a couple months because I moved back home, and we had a nice, really nice little conversation last week. I beat him by 60 points, and I texted him eat shit, so he really appreciated that. But all right, I think that's enough fantasy football talk to kind of round things out. I think we're good to kind of sign off here. Jake, is there anywhere people can check you out or any sort of social medias or anything that you want to pimp? You don't have to pimp anything if you don't want, but I
I
just,
mean, I guess you could follow me at Jake Pearson 9 on Instagram. I don't really post though. I'm not a big social media guy. I'm
yeah,
not like Nick from Listening with Levy, who
yeah.
has an awesome podcast. Um, but yeah, you know who I think you should check out?
Mm.
Droopy on YouTube.
Hey,
DROOWPY.
you know what's funny, dude? So now I'm gonna go into like self, congratulatory mode, but dude, my YouTube page is like weird. It goes through cycles, right? Where I have two videos that have done pretty well. Dude, my Doug Walker review
It's
went over a
always the
hundred that
nostalgia
it went
critic
over
in
it
me.
went over 100,000 views yesterday or today. So
Dude,
that was pretty
awesome.
awesome. Yeah. And then the the review must go on is the one that has 100,000, and then the talk show one has, I think, over 20.
Mhm.
And I get nothing for months, and then I'll just get a bunch of comments and views and then subscribers within like a couple days, and then nothing. And I'm in that weird moment right now where these videos that I posted 2 to 3 years ago each, they're both, you know, for some reason driving traffic to my channel. I am working on a new video, so that should be, I don't know when that will be out because I haven't even finished writing it yet, but I am working on a new video. It's going to be pretty cool. It's kind of in the same universe, of the Nostalgia Critic kind of reviews, but I do appreciate the shout out. You can also follow me at Droopy, DROOWPY, on Twitter and Instagram, and then obviously follow podcast 46 on, we're on TikTok at podcast.46. I believe it's 46 podcast on Instagram and Twitter, or X, or whatever you want to call it. I post a lot of random, I take bits from the show and I turn them into TikTok, little videos. If anybody ever watched Come Town, it's kind of like a lot of the clips that people used to post or listen to Come Town. People used to clip for those. So I try to make them funny and short little bits. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. I think Jake V will be back next week. But Jake P, thank you so much for joining. You're always welcome on the show. There's always a third mic waiting for you if you ever want to come on here and rant about the fucking Bears. So I appreciate
Absolutely,
you.
man. I have to say, after I listened to Listening with Levy, I keep saying Listening with Levy, but Nick Levy from Listening with Levy
Yeah.
and you go back and forth. I was like, you know what, this is a great time, and so I'm really glad that you invited me on.
Yeah, dude.
It feels like, I don't know. I know we're ranting about the Bears, so it just feels right.
Yeah. It
But I
it feels
enjoyed
good.
myself. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you for
dude.
having me.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. Thank you for coming on. Thank you out there for listening. Really appreciate it. Um, you know, keep listening, keep sharing with your friends, uh whatever you can do. Really appreciate it. Leave us reviews on iTunes or Spotify. Send links to people. Even just playing it for a second is really, really cool. I've seen the episodes have been getting pretty solid plays recently, which is really cool. So I really do appreciate all of the support. And Dane specifically, I'll thank you because you said some nice things. We made fun of you a little bit earlier, but people have been saying nice
Love
things, and
Dane.
this is
Love
this
Dane.
this has been a really fun thing to do so far. And we're still very, 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 very small, but it is cool to see any sort of reaction at all to anything you ever do in life. I got a new haircut. My mom said, nice haircut. That feels really good. So anytime people say anything about anything that I do, and enjoy something that I do and enjoy being on something that I do, like you today, Jake, is really
Yeah,
cool. So
absolutely.
with that said, I think we're going to end the episode here. We will see how the Bears bounce back, if they do at all, in week 3 against the Chiefs. It's a 3:25 start in Kansas City. So hopefully it's a fun one. If it's not, I just don't want it to be annoying again like it was the last 2 weeks. But with that said, have a good week. Only another week until more Bears football. Hang in there, stay safe, and we will talk to you later. Bye.